Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. SIUK Japan is live with Regent College London.
それではお時間になりましたので始めさせていただきます。本日は皆様ご参加いただきありがとうございます。本日のセミナーは YouTube での同時配信となっております。そのため参加者の皆様はミュートにてお願いいたします。ご質問がある場合はぜひ Zoom のチャットボックスを通じて気軽にお聞きください。プレゼンテーションの最後の質問時間でお答えさせていただいております。本日お話しいただくリージェントカレッジロンドンは実践的なビジネス系の科目が特に豊富で、その他コンピューター系関連のコースであったり、保健衛生のプラクティカルなコースもご用意しております。また、ロンドンにキャンパスを構えながらも学費はとてもリーズナブルで通いやすいカレッジになっています。それでは本日リージェントカレッジロンドンの担当官であるスコットさんに、まずはプレゼンテーションをしていただきます。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。Hi Scott, are you there?
Yes, hi there. Thank you, Yusi. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for joining me on this Saturday afternoon in Japan. In the UK, it's morning, of course. So my name is Scott Bushell. I am the head of the English language department at Regent College London. And today I would like to talk to you about our international foundation programs, which we are starting from this September. So as head of English, I'm responsible for English language and academic study skills, which actually constitutes about 30% of the foundation program. So my department is responsible for a significant part of the program. So that's one of the reasons I'm here today. The other reason I'm here today is because of my background teaching and organizing training programs for Japanese people, actually over the last 20 years. So if I may, I'd like to start by talking a little bit about what I think Japanese students need and want on a higher education program. And then I'd like to explain, importantly, how our foundation programs address and meet the needs of Japanese students. And then finally, I'd like to talk to you about the subject areas of those foundation programs in a bit more detail. So my background is I ran a school in North London for Japanese expatriates and their families living and working in London. And most of those students came from the financial sector, from banking, but I also taught people from the arts, manufacturing. I taught a Japanese theatre director once and also an opera singer. So I've got quite a range of experience teaching different professions and different types of students. I also taught university students who were living and studying in London. For example, those that were studying on MBAs or law degrees or art and design degrees at colleges like the University of Arts London, University College London, and the London School of Economics. So that was my school and communication skills programs that I used to run in North London. And then in 2011, I joined a company called the London School of English, and I was the business development manager for Japanese students. And I used to arrange training programs for senior Japanese managers from big companies in Japan. And most of these senior managers were coming to London because they wanted to improve their speaking, their communication skills, but also their academic English, their general English, and their intercultural skills, because their main aim was then to go on to study, for example, at Harvard Business School or the London School of Business or IMD in Switzerland. So they needed a language and communication program that would prepare them for those MBA programs. But I also, again, arranged training programs for students who wanted to improve their English for IELTS so that they could then enter UK universities. So the reason I'm telling you this is because this experience is what I want to bring to our foundation programs so that we can meet the needs and address the challenges that Japanese students have. And if I may, I'd like to share with you some of my observations, generic observations about the challenges that Japanese students face, because I believe that if we understand those challenges, then we can deliver a more productive, a more successful course to you when you come to the UK. So let's start with language, and it won't be a surprise to any of you that speaking and listening is an area that Japanese students typically struggle from. I am talking about tendencies at the moment. I'm not stereotyping. I'm talking about language tendencies and cultural tendencies. So please don't think that I'm stereotyping everybody, but these are tendencies that I've found. So speaking and listening is an issue because, of course, listening to fast spoken English can be difficult if you've never lived in the UK. So that's one of the areas that we need to focus on and address. Giving presentations is also an area that we need to support our Japanese students with, understanding accents as well. There tends to be more formal English in Japan rather than in the UK. So obviously it depends on the setting. If you are, for example, giving a business meeting, then you will use more formal English, but you also need to balance that with informal English, so colloquial English, because you will be using your English outside of the classroom. You will be socializing, so it's really important that you've got a good balance between formal and informal vocabulary and language. Japanese students typically have a very good knowledge of grammar, but they need now to implement and to activate that grammar in speaking in task-orientated, practical exercises. And that's what we want to achieve on the foundation program. Now, the other area is the culture. And, you know, I think, again, you probably agree that for many Japanese students coming to the UK, it might be their first time living and studying in the UK. I'd also add, for many of the students that we have, it's the first time that they've travelled outside of Japan. So there is inevitably going to be a culture shock between Japanese culture and UK culture. And this is not just for Japanese students, it's true of all students. If they've never travelled outside of their own country, then coming to the UK can be a bit of a culture shock. So we need to be prepared to support you on that. And I'd also say that, and I'm sure you're aware of this, that the rate of multiculturalism in London is much higher than somewhere like Tokyo or Osaka or perhaps anywhere in Japan. We are a very multicultural society. And I think that's a really good thing, because when you come to study in the UK, you will improve your intercultural skills. And I'm sure many of you will want to work in a multinational company or in a Japanese company that is globalized, where you may have to work in different countries. And so studying in a multicultural environment is really going to help you for your future career and maybe your future management. So the culture is something that we need to support on. The other thing is the communication style. And Europeans tend to have a tendency to interrupt when people are speaking. It's just our communication style. It's perfectly acceptable to interrupt when somebody is speaking. But I know that this can be very frustrating for Japanese students. Sometimes they may feel that this is actually quite rude. So we need to sensitize our Japanese clients, and we need to sensitize also our other students to the potential conflict that may bring up. So communication style is something that you will need to get used to, and we can help you with that. The other thing is the different working style in the UK, if you do work in the UK eventually, and also the study style of university. So the way that you study in Japan is probably quite different from the way that you're going to study in the UK. You will be expected to do perhaps a bit more self-study, self-orientation than you would if you were at Japanese university. And in terms of working style, one of the biggest complaints that I used to receive from my Japanese business people and professionals working in London was, why do English people always stop working at 5:30 at night? And I would say that, you know, this is the culture, this is the working culture in the UK, that you finish at 5:30 and you go home. Of course, many people do work a bit later, but it's nothing compared to Japan, where I know that the working hours are much longer. So again, that's something that you should be aware of, the kind of working style. And we're going to talk a bit about the organizational culture of different companies a little bit later, and I'll talk about that. Last but not least, the things that I observed about my students was that they typically wanted to be near to the underground and near to a transport hub. They like to be near to a convenience store, supermarket, especially younger Japanese students. And they love the parks in London. We've got lots of really big parks compared to your parks, for example, in Tokyo and Osaka. And they love the greenery and the nature. And luckily, we have all of those things very close to where we are located. So anyway, that's my kind of introduction. I wanted to give you an insight into my background, and that experience I hope to use when formulating the foundation program for you. I want you to understand that we are there to support you. We understand your challenges, and we also understand the challenges of other cultures, not just Japanese students, but we're there to help you and support you with that experience. So how to apply? Well, you're going to speak to SIUK after this presentation, no doubt, and then they will speak to me. And then I've got a great team, admissions team, that will be processing and looking after your application. The academic requirements for Japanese students, again, please refer to your SIUK counsellor, but you can see there, I hope, in English and Japanese, what you need in order academically come on to the foundation programme. Upper secondary school equivalency examination, upper secondary school leaving certificate minimum. But we can discuss that, or you can discuss that with your counsellor. In terms of English languages, you need a minimum score of IELTS 5 in all 4 areas, if possible, please. And if you're not sure, that's a kind of strong B1 level in English, or, you know, a strong lower upper intermediate level. So that is everything. The September intake, we are only accepting students at the moment for September intake. You need to apply by the 13th of September, and the classes start at the end of September. So we've got plenty of time. And that is everything that I wanted to say today. I'm sorry if I focused on areas that you might not have been interested in, but maybe it will give you some ideas of what we do, and you can talk to friends and family. But thank you very much for listening. I'll pass back to UC.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much for a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got some questions through YouTube.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Sorry, I will change to Japanese.
Yeah, of course.
皆様、ご清聴いただきありがとうございました。では、今から Q&A セッションに移ってまいります。すでに YouTube の方からいくつかご質問をいただいておりますが、Zoom からご参加の方ももしよろしければチャットボックスにご質問をご投稿ください。最初に提携している大学はありますか？バーミンガム大学かコベントリーへの進学に興味がありますと。Hi, Scott.
Yes.
The first question is about your university partnership. As you mentioned, you have partnership with Bolton University and Northampton and Buckinghamshire University. However, the student is interested in Birmingham and Coventry.
Okay.
Is it possible to progress to those universities?
From the foundation?
Yes.
I mean, you know, it will obviously be quicker to go, for example, from our foundation to Bolton because of the visa and the CAS. So we can either apply for what is called a double CAS, so that the student can go straight from our foundation and then on to either Bolton or Regent. If they wanted to go to a different university, of course, they can use our foundation program to apply. But in terms of the visa, you're probably the expert on this, Yusi. They probably have to come back to you and apply for a separate visa. So the only difference is the route is smoother and quicker if they go from us to one of our partners. But in terms of using the qualification to apply for a bachelor's, that should not be a problem because we are recognised and the qualification is a recognised qualification. So thank you, good question.
Thank you. And do you have any student support for students who want to apply for different universities?
Yeah, I mean, we're always there to give obviously the careers support, but also the student support if they are applying. So they will obviously have to submit a personal statement. We will be happy. I mean, my department will be helping on that because we're English. We can support you on that personal statement. Yeah, thank you.
ご質問ありがとうございます。今提携している大学はボルトン大学とあとノーサンプトン大学、そしてニューバックスモー大学という大学なんですが、他の大学へももちろん進学が可能になります。唯一の違いとしては、こちらのリージェントカレッジロンドンが提携している大学であれば、WCAS といってそのビザの手続きなどがスムーズになるんですが、提携外の大学に行かれる場合はもう一度日本もしくは現地で再度キャスレーターをもらってビザ申請をしていく必要があります。ただ大学内にサポートチームもあるのでご安心ください。でね、次のご質問なんですが、高い IELTS スコアを持つ日本人留学生対象の奨学金はありますか？ Hi, Scott.
Yes, hi.
Is there any scholarship for Japanese students with a good IELTS score? Usually, Japanese students are excluded from the scholarship list.
I mean, we are taking a very open-minded approach to scholarships. If somebody shows the right attitude and if they show the right competence in terms of English or academic, then we are willing to consider. You know, scholarships are an interesting thing because we look at each student on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, they will need to show some aptitude, some strong competence in a particular area. So my answer is yes, we are willing to consider. So please, if you can tell us a little bit more about, for example, you know, your background, your academic or work experience, then we would also consider that. But yeah, a good, strong English foundation is something we would definitely consider.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
日本人を対象した奨学金もケースバイケースでございます。高い IELTS スコアだったり、もしくは例えば、高校や大学の GPA が高かったりですとか、何かそうですね、ケースバイケースで考慮してくださるということですので、ご興味がある方はぜひ SIUK までお問い合わせください。We've also got a question about accommodation. What kind of options do you have?
Yeah, so we work with a number of local residences, student residences. They are all very modern, very clean. They have lots. They do serve a number of different students from different universities. So sorry for the long answer, but there is one which is 25 minutes walk from our university, which is also used by students from the London School of Economics, for example. So it's a shared residence, but we always check, that it's clean, that it's good, and that it's close. There are lots of accommodation opportunities in London if somebody wants something different. But yeah, we work with the closest is 25 minutes walk away.
Thank you. いくつかのロンドンにある寮と提携している形をとっていて、例えば LSE というロンドン大学の一校の学生も住んでいるような寮であったり、学校から徒歩25分圏内にアパート寮がある場合もございますので、たくさんのオプションはあります。And the next question is there many opportunities for internship and part-time job for international students?
Yeah, well, as you noticed from my presentation, we know that this is very important for students. So that's why we have strong connections with local companies. So for example, in the second year of the Allied Health Bachelors, we place students with a local company. Okay, so that's for the health, but also for the business programs, we have good, strong connections. If people want to work, we can help them to apply for local work.
Yeah. Thank you. こちらの学校は産業界と強いつながりを持っておりますので、保健衛生のコースもそうですし、ビジネスのコースもプレイスメントといってインターンシップを学校がとても協力的に手伝いしてくれます。We've also got a question from Zoom. How many reference letters do you require for your PG programs?
Well, it depends on so if this is for masters in...
Yes.
Yeah, we've got two masters. One is the MBA, Masters of Business Administration. The other is the Masters of International Management. Now, if you are studying an MBA with us, you will need a good academic qualification and also some sort of management reference. You need to have worked in industry. With the Masters in International Management, we don't require the work experience, but we do require some sort of academic reference or degree. So it depends on which program you take. The Masters in International Management is easier for some people to apply for than the MBA. But again, my answer is we look at each student as an individual, the potential that they have, and we look at them by a case-by-case basis. So if that person is interested, please submit, an application, and we will look at it very carefully. We don't need really, really high-level reference, but we do need some sort of indication that the student is serious, has experience, and has the right academic qualification. Okay? We're not strict.
Thank you very much. そうですね、今お答えいただいたように何かしらの形で人物像の保証であったり、しっかりとそのプログラムを最後まで学べるような人物だという証明は必要なんですけれども、ケースバイケースで例えば MBA であればご職歴など、あともう一つインターナショナルマネージメントのコースであればご職歴がなくても何か他のアピールできる点があればケースバイケースで考慮してくれますので、ご興味ある方はまた別途 SIUK までお問い合わせください。Scott, I think we've answered all questions, and and it's just about 1 hour. So
yes,
perfect.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
It's been a pleasure. See you in Tokyo.
Yes. Hopefully see you
Bye.
in Tokyo soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Bye.